where you can get involved and join Gordon, Tom and I through until 9. And there's so many talking points tonight because we want to hear from you as we discuss the weekend's Six Nations build-up. It was a chaotic build-up. Was it always inevitable Wales would lose to England in Cardiff on Saturday? And does Warren Gatland really take his side to Rome as underdogs? We'll get your views on that in the next hour or so. We'll also review the latest local football and rugby news from across Pembrokeshire and reflect on something that I'm sure made Gordon smile yesterday, Manchester United's Carabao Cup success. There's attention on the relegation battle in the Premier League. Swansea City are in action right now playing Rotherham, and anything else that catches our attention between now and 9. That is all here on Pure West Sport. Gordon and Tom are in the studio in Haverfordwest. It is really nice to see you both. How are we doing?
Very good, Ben. It's lovely to have you back on the show as well.
Yeah,
welcome home.
Thank you. No, it's been a couple of months, hasn't it? Yeah, and I'm pleased to be back as well. And plenty has happened, and I think we do have to start with the Six Nations, Gordon. So I will get you to hold fire on enjoying Manchester United's Carabao Cup win yesterday, but we will do that before the end of the show because that was a great effort. But chaps, how are we both feeling really? Because that was a bad Saturday for Wales, wasn't it? But Gordon, what was it inevitable? Because the build-up was so chaotic with the players' contracts, wasn't it? Did they ever have a chance of winning on Saturday, really?
Well, obviously going into the game, having lost every game, Ben, and with everything that's been going on behind the scenes with the players' contracts and other things like that, it wasn't the best build-up for Warren Gatland's side, to be honest with you. But it was better than what I actually envisaged, actually, Ben. I thought Wales did compete quite well. It was very scrappy. We made a lot of mistakes. Line out wasn't great. Throwing the ball over the top again, and nobody seems to know where it was going. Scrummaging was not too bad, and we did have a few phases where we looked half decent, but we give away too many penalties again. And had Farrell had his kicking boots on, they would have been, instead of 5 points ahead, they would have been at least 15 points ahead, I believe. But on saying that, it's where Wales is at this moment in time. We had a Grand Slam back in 2019, and since then we just haven't got going. And under Pivek's tenure, we had the same problem. He was playing too many players, in my opinion. Perhaps, yes, he was bedding a few in to see how they would play at international level, but it was finding the consistency and the right balance. He didn't do that. That's how he lost his job. And Gatland's come in under very, very difficult circumstances to try and pick up a team that is really rock bottom. And that's where Wales are at this moment in time. But, they've got to play Italy next. And I will say it, Italy will be the favourites to win that one. They beat Wales last season in Cardiff for the first time ever in the Six Nations. And I'm afraid Stephen Varney from Cardigan area will be playing scrum half for Italy and relishing the challenge of, beating his home nation.
Would he get in the Wales team,
Gordon? It's a big
Gordon?
possibility.
Would he get in the Wales side, Stephen Varney?
Well, no, he wouldn't have. Well, Thomas Williams didn't have one of his best games. Let's put it that way. But when we're not playing the likes of Gareth Davis, Rhys Webb, that's only two dimensions, decent scrum halves. That is a problem area at this moment in time. Kieran Hardy came on and made a bit of a hash with a simple a pass. He threw it along the ground and England intercepted and it went up the other end of the field. So, yes, Stephen Varney on form would get in the Welsh team probably, mate, yeah.
Well, look, there's the question on the screen. Wales for the wooden spoon. And I think we do have to ask that question. I'd like to know what people who are watching think about that. Will Wales get that win in Italy? What do you think, Tom? It's a Six Nations cliche, really. I think we've been saying it for the last couple of years. Italy are improving. I think they genuinely are, aren't they? So, and they actually have played pretty well, I think, on occasions in this year's tournament. So, this is a wooden spoon game, isn't it?
100%. The risk that Wales have going into the game is that Italy actually have a better idea and handle as to what style of rugby they want to play. They know they've got three excellent back line. They know that they want quick ball. And they're going for it. They don't actually seem to be afraid of anyone, which leads to errors, which is why they're not getting the wins ultimately. But they know the brand of rugby they want, and I don't think Wales do, which is why it ended up with a lackluster kicking game, a la kind of 10 years ago when the kicking rules first changed. But no one wants to do it. And Gordon just mentioned there with Pivac having too many players. Fraser summed it up really well earlier in the show, that Gatland's now in this place where he needs new blood, but he's sticking to the old guard, the ones that he knew from a couple of years ago, which is kind of what Pivac was stuck doing as well. Mm-hmm. But there's no there seems to be no design as to why those players are being picked, whereas Italy have been like blooding this team now, this squad, for a good 3 to 5 years. They know the brand of rugby they want, and I think it's going to be really close.
It's interesting though you say that, because Gordon hit the nail on the head about how it's unravelled from winning the tournament in 2019 to the question that's on the screen, Wales to the wooden spoon. How has that happened, Gordon, to that level? Because Wales did win the tournament in 2019, and at that point we think Pivac's laying the ground here for building something. How's it got to this level, do you think?
Well, it's happened before. It happened in the 70s. They had a great squad. We had a great squad, and a lot of the players have come to the end of their best days, and the players that have come in, Ben, are not quite at that level. That's the easy way of answering that question, to be honest with you. And as Tom just pointed out, he's still playing a lot of the old guard. He did play a lot of the old forwards. We had Faletau, number 8. There was Tipperick in the back row. There was Alan Wynne-Jones, who I think should be standing out of the Welsh squad completely. I think he's just his experience would be invaluable in training, but I don't see it that he shouldn't be playing at international level now. He'd probably question what I'm saying there, but he is 35, 36. He's had a tremendous career. He's been the best second row that Wales has probably produced since the 70s, when Alan Martin, Jeff Whelan, the likes were playing then. So it's interesting one. It's regional rugby as well is another issue. We're not playing that well. We did have a little spell after Christmas where all the regions were doing well in Europe, but prior to that, they were not performing to the required level that they should be at. The Irish regions and Scottish regions and the South Africa side seem to be ahead of us in terms of their play and the style they want to play. Gatland, he's been there and done it before. He knows what's required. It's whether he can get enough players to be able to be singing off the same hymn sheet, so to speak. He has an idea of what he wants to do and how he wants to play it and what tactics he wants to do. But it's whether they are good enough at this moment in time, which they're not, to implement it. That is the problem, and that's where the mistakes are happening. And other teams are making the most of Wales's misfortune, and it's a difficult one, Ben. It is really difficult.
Is there any blame? I personally don't think there can be at the moment. There can't be any blame laid at Warren Gatland's door at this stage, can there? Because he's come in, really inherited a difficult situation from Wayne Pivac, who we've said was on punditry duty, wasn't he, at the weekend? And Pivac's future, it was a discussion point for quite some time, wasn't it, before the change was made? You're going to get Warren Gatland, who is one of the best coaches in world rugby, but there isn't a magic wand here, is there? So really, does Gatland need to be backed, and does he need to manage a change, Gordon? You just said you'd end Alan Wynne-Jones' international career now. I think we've speculated about that, haven't we, on this show for quite a long time. So do you think Gatland should be back to do this job for 3 or 4 years and say, we're almost going to have to forget the next World Cup, or we go to the World Cup with some youngsters or players of the future?
Well, he did play some youngsters on Saturday. The 2 centres that played, I thought they had excellent games considering it was their first games. They dealt with the physicality of international rugby, no problem at all. And but on saying that, as I said, there's so much to put right with Welsh rugby. Gatland is the man to do it. We have to be patient. we've got to have faith in him because he's done it before. But I'm afraid Welsh rugby is broken at this moment in time, and it's going to take a little bit of time and patience from everybody concerned, and that's fans and players and everybody. They've got to be patient. We are where we are, Ben. We are probably, I'd say it, the poorest side in the Six Nations at this moment in time. But it can change. It can change.
Do you think the fans were shortchanged at all in Cardiff on Saturday, turning up to support the team in the midst of a week where there was some doubt whether the game might even be on? So if you're a fan, you've paid your money to go to Cardiff. I haven't caught up with my next door neighbour yet because he was there on Saturday. I need to ask him this question. Would you feel a bit shortchanged though when you think actually how focused truly were the players on the build-up? Because there was off-the-field stuff going on. Is that a fair question? Tom?
It is a fair question.
Well, it's really frustrating because, as Gordon opened up and said, Wales actually performed much better than a lot of people thought they were going to. It was a strong defensive effort.
That maybe says something about where England are at the moment as well. I don't mind saying that.
Correct, Ben.
So Wales turned up and they fronted up really well. Captain Ken was talking about, let's get some pride. We're not the laughing stock. And it does make you wonder that if they had those 2 or 3 days where they were focused on the job at hand, which was the Saturday game, could it have maybe swung the other way? Less penalties because it would have been a bit more sharp, a bit more quicker, a bit more focused. It could have been a very different game. But if you're having a whole training session scrapped so you can go to a board meeting, then you're not going to be match ready at an elite level.
I understand what you're saying there, Tom, but they've had weeks of preparation, so those few days won't have really affected them as much as you think it would have. They know what they have to do on a rugby field. They play every week. It's getting players to work together and the patterns that that Gatland wants, and they're not doing that at the moment. They can't reach that level.
Well, that said, then we've known when the Six Nations is for some time as well. Should the contract discussions not have been done before this tournament started then?
Well, that's 100%, Ben. You've answered your own question. That should have been done a long time ago. Time ago. We all know that. But I'll address it another way. Think of it this way. Regional rugby, the crowds are poor. There's not much revenue coming through the gates to watch regional rugby. Yet, when Wales play, it's £100 a ticket plus to go and watch them, and they fill a 70,000 seater stadium. They fill that no problem at all. It's been like that for years and years and years. The players, unfortunately, they deserve everything they get, but they cannot compete with England, France, Japan, the type of wages that they're giving out. I mean, there's
4 years ago. 4 years ago, they won the tournament, Gordon.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, 4 years, and a lot has happened in 4 years, isn't it? Yeah, a lot has changed.
Because the WR, they're charging those ticket prices to fill up the Principality, but if you're not winning games and the rugby is not enticing or exciting, they're going to stop filling that up soon, and then the whole system falls down, and it's a horrid place to be in.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot at stake, isn't there? Just on the Six Nations, then, Wales for the wooden spoon. Will Wales win in Italy? Gordon,
I'm hoping. I've always got faith in Wales. They'll win in Italy. Their backs are against the wall, and they'll come good.
We love an underdog.
He didn't say that about 20 minutes ago, did he?
No, we're under pressure, mate. We're under pressure. Wales is under pressure. Everybody's under pressure. As I said, it wouldn't surprise me if Italy won. But there's a lot of work to be done, and it can be put right, but it's going to take time and effort.
You're disagreeing with yourself there, good. Tom, can you give me a clearer answer?
Contradictory, innit?
I think the Wales will find it really difficult, and just like last year, I think Italy might be able to scrap it out, particularly if the Wales team that turns up isn't one that's gelled together, like new faces with old faces, and I just don't know whether or not they're going to be gelled enough to overturn a tight-knit Italian team.
Excellent suggestion on the screen. If Wales do have the wooden spoon, can we rename it a love spoon and make it sound a bit nicer? That's a great idea. That's an absolutely brilliant idea. Who's going to win the Six Nations? Can we see past Ireland?
No,
No.
I think it is theirs for the taking now, Ben. Let's be honest, they are the world's number one side, and ironically, it's an Englishman leading them, Mr. Farrell, and he's done a superb job. And he will win it, and I reckon he'll be the next Lions coach as well, with the way things are going.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah, Farrell was making a real case, isn't he, to coach the
done
Lions?
A brilliant job.
Absolutely phenomenal job. And what did you make? Just you can indulge me a bit. What did you make of England in Cardiff? I think from what I've seen so far, and we've not been on the show for a few weeks. Very much a work in progress under Borthwick, I think, at the moment.
Of course, he's got the same problems, man. He's got more. But the thing with England, they have an abundance of talent. Yeah. Wales doesn't. They could put a second nation.
Okay.
He's got the problem. The heads there, hanging on, and Mr. Farrell is one of them. Mr. Farrell's son. Ooh. I think he's come into a point where he's got to think: is he a 10? Is he a 12? Do I play him? You know, I didn't think he had one of his best games on Saturday. I've always read Farrell, but he didn't have one of his best games against Wales on Saturday. Definitely didn't. And he didn't have his kicking boots on, which is his repertoire. He usually puts them over for fun. And he missed quite a few important kicks. And in bigger games than Wales, those kicks got to go over at this moment in time, definitely.
And particularly when he's got Smith breathing down his neck, one of the most exciting number 10s on the planet at the moment.
Well, England don't like people with flair. They don't like to play them. They like this straight up the middle, just steamroller. They don't like anybody who can sidestep and go on the outside and, draw it. They don't like that. So Mr. Smith will be lucky to get back in the.
He had 12 seconds, didn't he? 12 seconds at the end of the match.
Yeah.
Didn't that used to be called Gatlin ball a few years ago, Gordon?
Warren ball.
Warren ball. Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, you're right.
Listen, we'll take a moment, and we'll come back to this. Any more comments on the Six Nations? Do let us know, and where next for Wales as they go to Italy. There's a break, isn't there, this weekend? So they go to Italy the weekend after next when the tournament resumes. Plenty of local football and local rugby to talk about, because local rugby, I think, returns, doesn't it, this weekend? We have that rule that we've also touched on a bit where it pauses when there's internationals, but good to have local rugby back. So we'll talk about that in a few moments. Talk about Haverfordwest County as well. And before 9, Manchester United winning the Carabao Cup, and a bit more to come as well. It is good to be back with you this evening. It's Monday evening. It's Pure West Sport. We're back in a few moments.
Eaton-Evans and Morris Solicitors have traditional values.